The Western Bulldogs is a family religion for me. About 2 weeks before my mum died, I was nursing her at home. She said, "Darling, when I die soon, you're going to have to write to the Western Bulldogs and tell them I'm gone." And I said, "Mum, why are we having this conversation?" And she said, "Well, you could join, you know. One in, one out." Mum just couldn't bear the idea of her beloved Doggies losing a member. Ever since, I've been a member. Mum saw them win their first flag in 1954. She grew up in Footscray. Grandpa was a life member. I thought we were going to lose my brother to a heart attack when he and I were watching the grand final together in 2016, the last flag they won. Now, I won't pretend I watch a lot of sport. I don't. It's just not my thing. But I love the Western Bulldogs. I also know you've got to be loyal to your team. You don't change teams. You don't pretend to be something that you're not. Which is why I think it's so pathetic that Australia's led by a bloke, Scott Morrison, who constantly changes teams and lies about it. Now, let's get the facts. Some days, Scott Morrison pretends to be a loyal Bulldogs supporter. In 2006, he listed for the first time the Western Bulldogs on his CV when he was trying to get into Parliament, just after he was sacked as the head of Tourism Australia. For years, they were the only team he supported. He even tweeted in 2009 that he backed the Western Bulldogs because loyalty counts. But a few years later on TV, he forgets this stuff is all recorded, he claimed he didn't have an AFL team, and he even asked the host, who was an avid Collingwood supporter, to pick one for him. In 2018, before the grand final, this Prime Minister for Sydney said he wasn't backing any of the Victorian teams that weekend. He hoped that Perth would win the grand final. Okay, there is no team called Perth, but the Prime Minister then was worried about losing seats in Western Australia, not Victoria. So of course he changed teams. But he doubled down the following year on not having a team. He acted like he'd never supported the Doggies. He told Liberal MP Tim Wilson, "I wish the Demons well this weekend. I don't have an AFL team, as you know." Tim Wilson even tweeted a video and said he'd inducted the Prime Minister as an honorary supporter of the Demons and put a Melbourne Demons AFL scarf round Scott Morrison's neck. What a loyal Bulldogs man he is. But this weekend, is he going to wear a D's or a Bulldogs scarf? I bet he's happy in New York. He'll be like, "All go Yankees." But a year later, he doubled down, he kept going. In a 3AW radio interview with host Tony Jones, the host shared that he thought the Prime Minister now was jumping on the Collingwood train. In response, Morrison said, "I don't have an AFL team. My team is the Cronulla Sharks up in Sydney." This is despite publicly backing the Western Bulldogs for at least 4 years. But none of this should be a surprise. Morrison can't even get his story straight on whether he likes rugby or league. Now, for the Victorians out there, rugby is the posh private school game. Think Joe Hockey, Tony Abbott. League is the working man's game, what Morrison's currently pretending to be. But Morrison spent his entire life before getting into Parliament being an avid supporter of the East Rugby Club. 20 years ago, when he was doing a tourism marketing job in New Zealand, it suited Morrison to suck up to the All Black loving Kiwis, and he said, "New Zealand's a bit of a nirvana, because in Sydney, rugby usually takes second place to league." He was a rugby fan up until 2006. When he was trying to get into Parliament, then the East Rugby Club was scrubbed from his CV. But it gets worse though. After his controversial, some say dodgy pre-selection in 2007, he moved to the Shire and suddenly became a Cronulla Sharks supporter. He actually switched from rugby to league. This avid supporter of the East Rugby Club ditched his team and ditched the sport. He became all like, up Cronulla. What a tosser. That's loyalty for you, Scott Morrison style. What kind of bloke picks a sporting team based on a political focus group? He's not even a consistent fake though, it depends who he's talking to. 4 years later on Twitter, he shared though, he was more of a rugby fan when it came to sports. In 2012, he even added rugby back on his list of personal interests, but he had a bet the other way and he also said AFL's the greatest show in Australia. In 2015, someone asked him on Twitter, "Why don't you talk about soccer? You know, it's big in your area." He said, "Well, I don't really talk about soccer because I just grew up on rugby." He also said, "I'm never going to be something I'm not. I'm not going to be inauthentic. What you see is what you get." Well, what I see in Scott Morrison is a total fake. The guy flip-flops and lies about what sporting teams he likes, just as he flip-flops on the big national decisions for Australia, whether it's quarantine or vaccine or lockdowns or robo-debt or submarines. This guy is a nasty and dangerous fake. And who even wants him as a Doggies supporter?